president last night, the former president, president-elect, whatever you want to call him now, President Trump, said he will lead to a golden age of America. Some world leaders are beginning to weigh in. We're going to talk about the economic impact. But I want to start off, first of all, with responsibility. I think that as I watched last night, there was a lot of what you would expect when the president took the stage, I'm calling him the president, President Trump, but I don't mean any disrespect to Biden. But his title is president. President Trump took the stage last night with his family and friends. He introduced J.D. Vance to say a few words. He had some other people up there speaking, Dana White and others, that were crucial and critical to his victory. But he did talk a little bit about the country, and he talked about healing, and he talked about that, and I hope that continues and carries on. I'm not in a mood to gloat. This isn't about gloating for me. I am happy with the results. I'm very clear with where I vote and where I stand. But there's a lot of work to be done. America is facing some very difficult days ahead. Best case scenario, and it's a double-edged sword, is that the Republicans, we now know, will control the Senate. It's just a question of by how many. The House of Representatives is still up for grabs, but it looks like the Republicans have a good chance of retaining control of the House. If that happens, if it is a red wave, what the Republicans will be facing for the next 2 years is we've got massive deficits in the federal government. We have an economy that is slowing down. I think the acknowledgement will come from those that didn't really want to talk about it and put their thumb on the scale for the election. We've lost about 76 or 78 million manufacturing jobs nationwide in the last few months. So we are seeing that slowdown in the economy. The Fed's going to meet, I believe, tomorrow, and they are probably going to lower interest rates at about another 25 basis points, if not 50, but I think it'll be 25. Either way, we're going to see the trend of interest rates being dropped, trying to motivate spending in business. So will that work? But they're facing massive deficits. They are facing a slowing down of the economy. We still have war going on in the Middle East. We still have a war going on with Ukraine and Russia. We've got this critical time with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Social Security is less than 10 years from being bankrupt. Mandatory 20% cuts to payouts to recipients in less than 10 years. So there is a lot that this nation is facing. The victory lap is exactly what you're supposed to do, but let's be clear. If you've ever been, I love the sports analogies. If you've ever been a part of or you've been a fan of a championship team at any level, they celebrate the victory. They're in the locker room with the champagne and the goggles on. But the next morning, that victory is behind you, and there is a lot of hard work in front of you. Who does this president surround himself with? Will he surround himself with people that are very capable and qualified? The border issue. He's promised mass deportations. But here's the issue with the U.S. economy. If you are going to threaten the workforce, which many business leaders are concerned about, how are you opening the door to legal workers? Now, I'm not saying he's incapable. I'm not saying he's not going to. I'm saying if this turns into a revenge fest, if this turns into I told you so, if this turns into any kind of long-term we win and you lose, in 2 years there will be a bloodbath, a political bloodbath in the House of Representatives. So this is an opportunity to turn the page and then truly talk about unity. Now, do I think people on the left are going to do that? Not necessarily. If you listened, and we're going to talk in more detail about this later on, if you listen to some of the excuses that were made, Juan Williams made a fool of himself last night on Fox News. He blamed it on the fact that people weren't going to vote for a woman or a black woman, that it was racist America. This has nothing to do with being racist, nothing at all. The idea, and I hope we get past this, because I think more than anything else, what this shows is the American people, and this is where I think the big mistake by the Democrats were in this race. The American people do not hate Donald Trump. You do. There is a small number of people, and that's in any case. I saw it in 2004 on the Bush campaign. There was the groups called the ABBs, anybody but Bush. They believed that the country hated George W. Bush so much at our core. The majority of Americans hated W so much that you could run a ham sandwich against him and probably win. Well, no offense, but they ran a candidate that wasn't much more than a ham sandwich in John Kerry. He was not a good candidate for president, and he got trounced. There's a myopic view on both sides, and when you let that view be the predominant view, you're in trouble. And the nation does not hate Donald Trump as much as some of the people that were sending the message on these campaigns do. In the last 12 days, you look at the predominant ads that you saw from the Harris campaign, and they were just on how horrible and evil Donald Trump was, and it was going to be the revenge tour, and he was going to go after his enemies. And the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of statements that were made. I agree with some. I don't agree with some. But the fact of the matter is, what was proven is because he's right now by over about 5 million votes. He is winning the popular vote. It's not just a landslide in the Electoral College if the trending continues and he wins Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin. If he wins these states and it takes him over 300 electoral votes, that's a massive wipeout. But we knew that was possible with either one of these candidates, as close as some of these races were going to be. If Donald Trump also wins the popular vote, which he didn't in 2016, obviously he didn't in 2020. This is proof that the American people saw the riot on January 6th as a horrible occurrence, just like I did. The idea of an insurrection and all this other threat to democracy, that's not how the American people view it. So if you're going to take the position that we're racist and anybody that voted for Donald Trump are these horrible right-wing extremists, you're just wrong. It's just wrong. The American people looked at both candidates, and with all of the baggage that is hung around the neck of Donald Trump, some of it self-induced, some of it I don't think is, but a lot of it is, they saw him as the better candidate. So the American people, I think the hand needs to be extended. An open hand and not a closed fist needs to be extended by Donald Trump and the Republicans. But if that open hand isn't reciprocated by people on the left, if this turns into another fight, if this turns into let's find a way to impeach him, if this turns into now let's get these court cases in New York and let's try to put him in prison. If you start seeing the headlines, now the question, can a sitting president be put in prison? If that continues in this country, the side that's fostering discontent is not the Republican side of the aisle. I think the biggest mistake they made was believing that the nation feared and hated Donald Trump as much as they did. It's behind us. We're going to move forward. I'm anxious to see how all of this plays out. It should be interesting.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.